Greetings, greetings, greetings. Happy New Year. Thank you for choosing Tarot Lumination. Hi, Aquarius, that's you. This is Tarot Lumination with your general report for January 2018. So we've done this before, you know the drill. Watch for your sun, moon, and rising if you have to cover all three. And then reinterpret everything, squash it all together in one fully comprehensive story. And you can figure that out for yourselves, okay? And also, for some of you, I know you like to cross-watch for other significant members in your world. Okay? And this is just a general broad energy reading. It's not a relationship reading, okay? Again, no jumpers, flyers, no oracles, no reversals. And that's just how it is. I like to read from a journey perspective, starting with the pulsing heart at your core, okay? And then we go from there. You'll see how it shows up in a moment here. Also, let's do the quickie thing here. This is for everybody. I'm probably going to do this for every report, just for this month. This is not an astrology channel, but you probably have heard about the big fat monster Capricorn new moon in January. Well, it is huge. There's such a massive cluster of planets going to affect everybody in one way or another. And for you, Aquarius, it's going to be over here in your 12th house, okay? The house of self-undoing, the house of universal love, spirit, imagination, dreams, and all things that we've like hidden away or lost or like never figured out or come to terms with, and we've shoved them in the kitchen drawer. And your direct connection with spirit here. So it's a very nebulous part of the soul, part of your identity, but there are going to be huge shifts and changes happening here, possibly in very tangible ways, given all this Capricorn energy. So you might really feel it and notice it in your physical life. Okay, you can figure that stuff out. I was just pointing that out for your reference. It's a very big deal alignment for everybody. All right, so what else? I think that's about it. Let's just get into it. Cards were already well shuffled in advance. Going to the last second so that you are a witness. All right, here we go. Gonna cut big and wide for you. All right, and then we'll go like this. See what happens, okay? Now, this would be your core heart energy, okay? It might not even have a language. You might not even understand it, but it's there, pulsing every beat. Over here is the legacy, your history, your baggage. This could be a lifetime. This could be lifetimes. This could be the last few weeks, few days, few months. History, it's energy that you're bringing in with you into January here. And over here is the ever-present now as you live through this time period that we call January, where we have this sensation of the past and the present and the future, like moving through a journey. And this is like a snapshot of the energy, okay? Over here is where you make your decisions, because you're always making your decisions in the present moment. Typically, a lot of us tend to stay out of the present as much as we can because it's so daunting at times to be in the present, and we often immerse ourselves in the past or projecting ourselves into the future and neglecting the present. But it's in the present where all your power lies, and that's where you have the most, let's say, effect with making your decisions. So this is the energy of decisions based on the present, the ever-present now. And this would be the energy of how are you going to make these decisions in a way that's most loving for you, Aquarius? Not for anybody else, but what's most loving for you, taking everything and everyone else into account, of course, but what's best for you is best for everyone. And this would be the energy of consequence, on the understanding that you kind of know what you're doing, all right? If you just think that life happens out there and you're always just reacting, you have no control, then this would feel like fate. Like, okay, this is just life. Stuff happens to you. Over here, the energy of what if. In other words, when you make those decisions, in that very moment, you're facing what we feel is the unknown, where all the potential lies for the risks and the rewards, the good stuff and the bad stuff, all depending on the decisions and the outcome of your decisions. So if you make a mess up of your decisions, this is what you might be frightened of. If you make a good decision, it might be what makes you feel good. This is kind of might be what you might expect or want. Or wouldn't it be awesome if? Over here would be the prospects. Like, where does this all go, assuming you kind of like really get in the flow with your journey here? Okay, now hopefully you can see this. I'm trying to make it as much like a heart shape as I can. So that would be overall, okay? And then over here would be at the very core. And it's all you, okay? But this is the core. And you're living through your life here. Now underneath, we're going to look at the circumstantial energy. Let's call it the weather. And you, Aquarius, like everyone else, you're going to make the best of it, okay? The weather's not going to own you. And you got the Eight of Cups. This card has been coming up a lot in readings recently, over here, behind the scenes, so to speak. And it could mean, like, deep in your soul, you are realizing there is like a massive chunk of your life that is now completed and ending. And there might be a lot invested in what you thought was your life, everything that you thought you loved, realizing that, well, okay, it's history now, and it is time to evolve and grow and move on in spirit. And that might be something very much to do with this massive Capricorn new moon in your 12th house. Massive leaps in spiritual evolution, realizing that ultimately it is all up to you, being willing to, let's say, accept the new realities unfolding. Also accepting that there's very little to guide you except spirit and intuition, but that's okay, because we're all of us in one way or another on some kind of magical spiritual journey here. And sometimes on a journey, there's this feeling like we're leaving the things that we love behind, as we have to move forward in our evolution, okay? And it can be murky. It can make you feel as though, I don't want to let go. And then on the other hand, you know you have to, so you do. And it's just a neutral realization that this is how it is. And the circumstances and the weather indications are telling you. It's just literally, it's like you feeling it in your gut, in your heart. Things are changing, and it's time to move on in terms of your spiritual evolution. Okay, deep at the heart core, we have, okay, the Truth Master, okay? This might be very, very much to do with the Capricorn energy as well, where the cold, hard light of truth is starting to shine very, very brightly in this very, let's say, nebulous, hidden part of your life, your chart, the 12th house energy, for example, where I don't want to personify this or say, oh, there's a tall, handsome fellow with a nice yellow hat coming to you who's going to chop and change your world to pieces. I don't want to do that, okay? I feel that this is much more about your inner core, your heart self, realizing that it is time for you to reach and come into mastery at the deep heart level, and perhaps in ways that are not that much fun, but cold, stark truth, because the truth is very liberating. The truth sets you free. And on that journey of discovering and knowing the truth, you eventually become a master of the truth, where you become an authority of knowing what the truth really, really is, as opposed to what you were taught or what was imposed upon you by others, let's say significant authorities, where deep down in your heart, you want to be the authority of you, your own truth, your own subjective truth to which you have a right. And everyone else has a right to their own subjective truth too. This is not absolute truth, but it is your truth, and the heart wants that, needs that, and deserves that. And in order to bring, let's say, in order to bring order, the divine order into the world in ways that are clear, crystal clear, not all covered in fog or illusions or perceptions or attitudes that are basically becoming obsolete, you know, especially if you're deeply emotionally tied to certain ways of beliefs and being that you are realizing are coming undone, or that never had that much substance to begin. Well, they might have had the substance, but it's like you've outgrown it. Your heart has outgrown whatever it is, wherever you've come from, and you have to move on. You have to move on, and you know it. And it is a journey. It is very much a journey. What are you bringing in with you? Oh man. Okay. And my feeling is that it's like you've already done so much homework on yourself. You know, I don't want to like tell people how to live their lives and everything, but you know, everyone has been under such pressure with all these like astrological patterns recently. The last couple of years been really, really tough on a lot of people. Big shifts are changing, big shifts are happening with all the alignments that are going to affect all of us in certain ways. And you may be coming in with the King of Cups here, feeling that you've already done an excellent job of mastering some of the turbulence through which you have had to live your life. Okay, huge ups and downs, huge life changing events and circumstances that maybe just shook you to your core, but it actually turned into an amazing learning process where you have already risen like way higher than ever before, than ever you kind of had anticipated, but you're there now. And this is not a cocky kind of energy. This is more you coming in like with an assurance and a confidence and a stable realization that, like it or not, you have to own your deep heart energy. You have to own it in such a way that you don't lock it down for the fear of it, because you're scared of the heart and the love and the emotional energy. You let it flow openly, but you have mastery on how the energy flows. And it feels over here, bringing in this with you, you've already been doing huge amounts of homework on yourself to do that, so that you have been able to endure a lot of, let's say, internal turbulence. Okay. Okay. Knowing that it is time, like, okay, it's like you've got your act together and you know it's time to move on to the next chapter. So in the present, we have the Page of Swords. My feeling is this now, in the moment, realizing, coming in with all these powerful intentions, powerful gifts, powerful talents, and desires to evolve and grow, and then facing another stark truth and reality that no matter how much work you've done on yourself already, you might have become a guru in this or that. You might have risen to the top of this. You might have, like, uh, let's say, figured out amazing ways to separate yourself from all the fears and traumas and dramas that, let's say, owned you and controlled your life. And you've taken ownership over that. You are the boss of you now more than ever before. And yet, because you are still alive, a living sentient being, there is this new energy coming along from which you cannot escape. You've done all this and you've done so much already, but it's like starting all over again and kind of going like, what? A whole new spiritual journey ahead? I thought we'd just done the most epic thing in my whole life. And then there's a very gentle, intuitive reminder that actually, so long as you're alive and living on this planet, it never stops. So we're just moving into the new chapter. Thank you very much. And all of it. And so at this moment in January, it's like a stark realization, like, oh my God, it's starting all over again. It's just like, I just got my high school diploma. Oh, wow. Now I have to go to college and get a degree. Oh, wow, that's great. Now I've got this degree. What am I going to do? Like, and then you realize, wait a minute, I still need to grow and evolve. So you get a master's, and then you get the PhD, and then you realize, I've done the PhD, now what? I'm already this awesome. And then you realize it never stops. And so you realize there's always a new level of innocence that you are facing in yourself. And so with the Page of Swords here, my feeling is that in the present moment right now, it's coming to a stark realization that you're going to new levels of spiritual awakening, which is much more about removing the obstacles of, let's say, that are obstructing what is already out there, the pure truth that is out there, the absolute truths that are out there, cutting them away, and like being a vigilante on yourself, calling out yourself to higher standards, higher levels than you've ever had to do before. And that's kind of what's happening, what's going in. And it's just a bit of a like, whew, like I just finished, now I got to start all over again. Okay, making the decisions in the present. Okay. The beautiful Two of Cups. It's about what works for you, loving you first, looking in the mirror and saying quite clear to yourself, okay, let's just face it. This is what it's really all about, is what Tarot Illumination talks about all the time, is love you first. So you look in the mirror, whenever you make a decision, it's about love you first. Okay? Very, very simple, very, very clear. Uh-oh, I'm an Aquarius. I have to make another decision today about this or that or that. What is the most important thing to do? Oh, they said to talk about love yourself first. Oh, okay. Okay. So I thought I was an expert already. I've done so much, but I guess I have so much to learn. It's okay to be innocent. We're all innocent to some degree. Even if you're already super highly qualified, you're still innocent. So when you start making decisions on the understanding that you're going to love yourself first, how do you do that effectively so that it actually happens and you don't fall back into other, let's say, redundant patterns? Okay, it's tapping into, I would say, like deep soul awareness of the self, where this is very much about romancing the self. Now, I'm not going to like elaborate on that. You can go chuckle, ha, 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 ha. I know what you're talking about. No, I'm talking about what it feels to me like here is understanding that you are part. Dear Aquarius, you can be so like wrapped up in these bigger pictures, these broad spectrum perspectives, to the point where you almost lose perspective of yourself. And my feeling here with this reading is it's time to come back to zero. Look at yourself first and see, like in the mirror, when you start making these profound decisions about how am I going to live my life through January and start coming out the other side, going forward into this new way of being, having done all this work on myself already, knowing that I'm going to have to call out the truth on myself. And maybe you have neglected, like, love you first. I mean, it sounds like, counterintuitive. What about loving the rest of the world? But, you have a right to love you and be loved, and treat yourself like a soulmate to yourself. That's what I'm feeling here. In other words, be prepared to cuddle yourself, nurture yourself, comfort yourself as your own best soulmate, on the understanding that ultimately we are like who we are. We can have all these community relationships. You can have all these wonderful hopes, dreams, and aspirations and live in the world together, arm in arm, hand in hand, and that's great. But it's really, really important to understand that you treat yourself that way first, because you might have neglected that for so long. We're still under the Leo North Node journey, which is telling you to really, really come out of yourself as the invisible Aquarian and become a very visible Aquarian who's a living example of love oneself first, even in a community setting. Okay, it's like it sounds counterintuitive to an Aquarian. Like, are you telling Tarot Illumination? Are you telling Aquarius to be all about me, 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 me? And in a way, that's what I'm sort of saying here. Okay, love you, sir. Nurture yourself. Okay, be very kind to yourself when you make decisions, and in so doing, you can it's almost like becoming married to yourself, where you become your own lover, your own best friend, your own spouse, your own being, your own husband, your own wife, not to the exclusion of everyone else, but very much about the lines of loving oneself first and putting yourself in your typical Aquarian community type settings where you don't have to disappear, where the ego doesn't have to exist. You have a full right to that. You have a full right to your full majesty, and you already know that, but now you have to live it by example. Okay? Not just a theory, not something that you would talk about to someone else or read about it in a book at night and meditate and then get up in the morning and then just go back to being your regular Aquarius self. No, it's about living by example. Okay? Love you first, live by example, and then show that to the world and understand how people dig that. They think, wow, if Aquarius can do that, then we can do that too. And you can celebrate. It's almost like an engagement party with yourself. Okay, and you can share that with others. Like, hey, everybody, I've figured out how to love myself first without being an arrogant, standoffish so-and-so, or like a completely invisible, or a complete, like compulsive humanitarian. Okay? It's okay to nurture yourself and love yourself as a human being. All right? So if you mess up on these decisions, it takes you into like a head spin, like, uh-oh, where did I go wrong? Because it takes you very far out of alignment with yourself. Okay? And if you make good self-loving decisions in these very new ways and practices of being, it takes you into a whole new perspective of yourself. And I think that's very much to do with this Capricorn new moon energy here, because it's so strong, it's so extreme, that you will feel it in your body. Just the slightest error of not loving yourself, you'll really feel it, okay? And then the slightest decision where you love yourself first, self-loving decisions, then you will really feel it. And in the good way, when you feel it, it might feel very weird because you might not be used to it. And it'll feel like, whoa, this is really weird, but it kind of feels good. And then you have to learn slowly, slowly, gently, gently, these new attitudes and perceptions of belief in the present moment, decision by decision, to make that happen. All right, so where does it take us? Mastery. Mastery, mastery of owning the power. Now, of course, with the magician here, it's also with great power comes great responsibility, because you do, by, let's say, learning how to operate this way, like learning a new operating system, learning how to really, really upgrade your practices and self-love practices, your self-healing practices, your meditative practices. There might be so much that you feel you're leaving behind in order to go to the next step, but that's okay. And it can put you in a very strong position with yourself, like combining these. It's like combining these into one being, okay? And so it puts you in a position of, with great power comes great responsibility. So what are you going to do with that? Because it's very easy to misuse the power, and it can be very mischievous. So it's really important to own the power and be aware about how delicious it feels to be self-empowering and loving oneself first. And it doesn't have to turn into being a control freak or compulsive compassion junkie, anything like that. It's about a crystal clear new awareness of a new way of being. Very, very simple. Love myself first, treat myself as my own soulmate, marry myself, love myself first, own the power, and live it by example. And then see what happens, because you are going into the unknown, okay? It's going to be going deep into the unknown very, very much here, but it will feel good. Your body is a very powerful, accurate barometer of what feels good. So listen very, very, very closely to what your body is telling you, all right? So I hope you got some sense out of this, and you can make use of it here in January. All the best, Aquarius. Have a super month. Bye-bye. Farewell.